but sometimes I forget it's so easy to lose your identity in the season of having young babies, so realizing that that is just a season, it's a moment, it will pass.
Welcome to Mommy Space. My name is Brianna Bernhard, your hostess, and I am a new mom. I selfishly created this podcast to get some advice and inspiration from the moms in my community who are doing amazing things while raising their families. I've realized motherhood is hard, but knowing I'm not alone in this call makes all the difference, and I hope you feel refreshed as you listen. Welcome to the tribe. Welcome back to Mommy Space. This is Bree, and today I am here with Cindy Collins of Euphoric Herbals. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. I'm really excited to talk with you today. I'll give kind of a short blip of how I heard from you, which I just shared with you. My mom actually sent me an article of you. You're featured in Forbes, and I read through this article about you, and she's like, hey, this would be a cool person for you to interview. And I was like, yeah, right. Like, I'm not going to get a hold of this person. This is, big deal person over here. But I did. I shot you an email just to be sure, just to try. And I heard back from you. And so I just feel so honored to be able to hear your story today and talk a little bit about you, your business, your family life. So before we dive in, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're located, and a little bit about your family?
Yeah, sure. Well, one thing I wanted to say about what you just mentioned about, you said, I'm just going to ask and never, it just doesn't hurt. I'm never going to go hold of them. But I just say it's so important. You never know what you're going to get unless you ask. So don't be afraid to ask, because that response might be so surprising.
That's so good.
And shock you. So always ask. There's no
Yes.
harm in asking. So don't do that, because you might regret not asking.
That's good.
I will tell you, I live in Delaware. I'm originally raised in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, cool.
And I have been in Delaware since 1999. And came here via the Air Force. So I was actually active duty in the military for a couple of years. And so I married a local here. And he's a teacher. He's been a teacher for eons, I think 24, 25 years. And we've been married for almost 17 years. And we have 3 boys. And they are 12, 9, and 7.
Nice.
And so that's pretty much it. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years.
Wow.
And just taking care of my babies and doing stuff on the side.
That's so great. Very
and
cool.
they're speaking of my babies. One's just getting ready to walk in because they just got off the bus. So we're going to get interrupted. I'm going to send them inside for a snack and a show or something like that. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, could you share a little bit about your journey into motherhood? Had you always wanted to be a mom? You mentioned being in the Air Force, and I also read, did you went to pastry school or something?
I did. So
cool.
The journey into motherhood, I tell you, when I was actually 18, I remember having a very distinct conversation with a friend when I was at my sister's wedding in Lake Tahoe. And I said, you know what, when I was 18 years old, so I thought I knew everything. That I knew what I wanted in life. And I was so sure how my life was going to go, because I knew I was going to go in the Air Force. And I said, I am pretty sure I'm not going to have kids. I like kids, but I just don't want them. I want to be that cool aunt without kids. Yeah. If I get married, I'm going to wait till I'm at least 25, and I'm definitely going to get a prenup. Yeah. So I was just from my family's history, I was like, that would be the way to go. And none of that happened. And I thank God for that, because, he has better plans than I do for my own life. And so, my journey into motherhood started. I loved kids, super good with them, but I didn't think I was going to have kids. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just didn't envision myself as being a mom. And of course, until you meet that person, you're like, oh, you should procreate and have babies.
Yes. Totally.
I'm so good at this. So that's kind of what happened. I met my husband, and it's such a and something you can't deny, moving me to Delaware and meeting the person I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with, and get married and stay in Delaware and not go back to California. So if that's not an act of God, I don't know
Yeah,
what
for
is.
real. That's so
To stay
crazy.
here
Wow.
and have children, and raise our family here.
Wow. That's so cool. Well, I would love it if you could kind of share a little bit about what you do on the side now with your company, Euphoric Herbals. I think it's such a sweet thing that we get to talk because what you share, what you provide for moms, specifically like breastfeeding, postpartum, pregnancy, is so amazing to me. And I would love it if you could share kind of how did that come about for you?
Mm.
What sparked that? Yeah, just go into that story.
Yeah. Well, for the longest time, I had always dreamed, even when I was in the Air Force, I always wanted to open up a coffee house and a bakery because I'm an obsessive coffee fanatic.
Nice.
And so that was my plan for a really long time. And that's why I went into pastry school so I could become a professional baker, because I thought that would help. But I
Wow.
just want to let people know that you don't you don't need that culinary college degree to be a good baker. Okay, there are some people who know that you don't need that. You don't need the student loans. Do
Yeah,
it without it.
that's good.
And so I thought that's what I needed. And that was my plan. After even when we had kids, we're like, I want to open a coffee house and a bakery.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, so much changes. I worked as a pastry chef in local restaurants for a while. And
Wow.
then I had my first son. I even taught baking courses at a local adult ed school.
No way.
And then I had my first son during my pregnancy, being, naturally gravitated towards holistic healing. I was just got very much into herbal teas
Mm-hmm.
and herbal healing during pregnancy, and just kind of used that for my own self,
Mm-hmm.
for making, herbal teas I would drink throughout my pregnancy. And then of course, as I had children, I like to create and craft and make stuff. So I used to make a lot of
Mm.
beaded jewelry. And that was one of the first things I put on my Etsy store, that and some salves and who knows what else I put on there, things I
Wow.
wanted to create.
Yeah.
And so it was really my having my own children. It was what eventually inspired
Wow.
me to create this company that I have now. It was just through that process of needs and issues that I had, where I wanted to create a tea for my own pregnancy. I didn't want to have to go out and spend
Yeah.
a ton of money or find stuff, especially in Delaware. It's not a progressive state, so it's really hard to
Okay.
find things like there are available in abundance in California,
Yeah.
especially in Northern California.
Yep.
So it was just really hard to find those things being in rural Delaware.
Wow.
And so I would just order my supplies and read and research, do a lot of own personal study and enrichment, and read a lot of herbal books. And
Wow.
then it started to grow from there. After my first son was born, one of the lactation consultants I took a class with at a hospital, she said, I was super passionate about breastfeeding. I was like, this is something I'm going to do. I'm going to exceed at that, because my first birth was not the experience I wanted. So I was
Yeah.
so determined to breastfeed. I was like, I'm not going to fail at this. Like, this is not going to
Wow.
happen. This is not going to end up the way that I think it's going. This is going to go
Mm.
really good. And I had a lot of struggles with breastfeeding. I overcame so many. Oh my gosh. I mean, I have it on my blog called My
Yeah.
Nursing Saga, because it really feels like a saga. There was so much that happened
Wow.
nursing my babies. I can't even remember, but multiple surgeries and kidney infection and
Oh my
Graves' disease and
gosh.
mastitis. I don't know. I've been through it all. I've had really strange things happen.
Wow.
So I eventually worked as a breastfeeding counselor at local hospitals, offering support at
Mm-hmm.
2 local hospitals for mothers who had their babies postpartum. And so that's how I got into it. And so I was at the hospitals for a couple years. I did it after my first son was born. Then I went back after my second son was born, and I was doing counseling there. And it was, my heart just started to feel really heavy from seeing these mothers have really sad, disappointing birth experiences where they
Mm.
were not empowered, and they
Wow.
just seemed beaten and bruised and hurting. And I just
Yeah.
grieved. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to experience this end of it. I want to become part of the solution in
Yeah.
seeing the aftermath. And for me, that solution was, I'm going to become a birth doula, and
Yeah.
then eventually become a midwife. And
Wow.
because that, I thought at that time, in my naivety, that I thought this is the way that I can be part of the solution. So
Wow.
that's what I decided to do after my second son was born. I became a birth doula. I did attend domestic and international midwifery conferences to gain more
Wow.
understanding and education and really enrich myself. And meanwhile, all that time still making herbal products on the side, just kind of for
Yeah.
me, for my friends, for my family, for my church, for my doula clients.
Wow.
I just kind of made it as a hobby. It was like available just as they needed it, or if they wanted a unique blend for a specific issue, then I could read and research about it. And then I was like, okay, try this. So
Wow.
all those people were my guinea pigs over the years.
Oh my gosh.
And this was just, it was fun. I never ever thought about it as a business or company. I just thought
Yeah.
it was something that was just I like to do. But my whole goal was to become a home birth midwife for a
Wow.
very long time. And at that, I was still also, I didn't so I was doing the doula stuff and then the herbal stuff, but I was also a photographer. So I
No
had,
way.
I was a photographer for a while too, for a couple of years.
Oh my gosh.
And I did photography. I did like, of course, birth photography and nursing
Yeah.
portraiture and newborn.
Oh.
And so I dabbled in all those areas, and they were all really great to dabble in because I learned so much from them.
Yeah.
But it really was after the birth of my third child that I really said, oh my gosh, I've got three children. I have three boys.
Hmm.
My husband had not yet, but he was working full time, part time in a band and mowing lawns. And then
Wow.
I know he's so crazy. He's just the busiest person
Oh.
I know. And then he started in 2013, started going back to school for his master's. And life was
Wow.
just too hectic.
Yeah.
Like I can't do this all. Like I can't have
Wow.
three kids and three businesses and my husband's busy working and doing all these things. Like this is kind of crazy. It was really
Oh
hard.
my
It's really hard
gosh.
to be on call and go
Yeah.
to birth going, I got to find a sitter for my kid. Well, all my family's in California. So very
Wow.
limited family here that I could call in, and having reliable sitters on a moment's notice
Right.
come to my house and go, hey, be with my children. I'll be back sometime. I don't know when,
Yeah.
and so I eventually said, what is, it was just too hard to juggle it all. And so I eventually just kind of had to ask myself, what is the one thing that I can do that only I
Mm.
can do? Obviously, I'm the only person that can be a mother to my child, and I really
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that whatever I was creating, building, business, hobby, whatever it was, that it led me the ability to be available for them, because that was my number one priority, is
Wow.
that whatever passion I was pursuing, it would still allow me to make them my priority.
Yeah.
Um, and so eventually, I realized, okay, I can't be on call as a doula. Um, and so I stopped taking doula clients. I think I might have had a couple after Silas was born, but I probably took like I think I might have had one before he was a year old and like another one. And
Okay.
it was just really too hard because then I started getting busy within my herbal business and making
Mm.
products and selling stuff on Etsy. So I said, I can't be a doula. This is too hard. There's a lot
Yeah.
of doulas here. Well, not a lot, not enough. I'll tell you that there's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there's enough people who want to become doulas where I can be that person that encourages them. I can
Mm.
support them in that journey and refer people to that way and still be an advocate for doulas and be a champion for doulas in that
Right.
way. So I said, okay, that's not the thing that only I can do. And I said, okay, and photography, as much as I love it, there's so many more people that can be a photographer, and that's not the only thing that only I can do. And so I said,
Yeah.
if I pulled my products out of the marketplace and stopped making them available, I would have hundreds and hundreds of really disappointed customers who said that their life has changed by using this product. And I thought, this is really the only thing that I can do, because I created this formula, I created this product, and so this is really where I'm going to have to focus and excel in.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Now, I was kind of struck by something you said earlier on. And that is that, like, for one, I love to talk about passions. And clearly, you are an ambitious woman with lots of different things. It sounds like you love to learn.
Mm.
But what struck me was that some of these things didn't really like start sparking until you had your first baby.
Right.
And I wonder, like, did you have things that you were passionate about before you had your kids? Did some of those things carry over into becoming a mom? And what kind of brings you life and joy now as you are in a new stage of motherhood? Do they still fuel your passions rather than taking from them? Like, could you kind of share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, before I had children, I was very passionate about, food and coffee. And
Mm-hmm.
I still love those things. I'm very much of a foodie, but I'm not like, oh, let me come make you a 5-course meal. Like
Yeah.
I'm not passionate about that anymore. Like, let me go take you somewhere where somebody else can make you
Yes.
instead. So I love coffee, and I've been passionate about that for a very long time. And sometimes I still have secret dreams of like, I'm one day will open a coffee
Oh,
house. So I'm not
yes.
completely giving that up. It's just not right now. It's
Yeah.
just now
Yeah.
is not the time. So I've not given that up for a coffee house. Not
Yeah.
so much for a bakery. I'm just, that's fine. Somebody else can be the baker.
Yeah.
I want to create opportunities for others to use their strengths and their skill set,
Mm,
whatever I do.
that's
So
so
whether
cool.
that's this business or whether that's any other business or project or hobby or passion I pursue.
Hmm.
So another thing that I've always been really passionate about for a very long time since I was a teenager was international missions work. So for a really
Mm,
long time, I've always wanted to go abroad and
wow.
go on an international mission trip. Like just
That's
my heart was
so
called to it
cool.
to serve in some way. So I finally got to go on my first international mission trip last year to
No way.
Thailand.
Oh
Finally,
my
like 20 years later,
gosh.
I was like, finally, this
Wow.
call on my heart has been
Yeah.
answered, and now there's this opportunity, and I'm so super
Wow.
excited about that. And it's still very much a very big passion of mine to think
Yeah.
about, international missions and how I can serve, but how I can use my business as a means, as a
Mm.
platform to
Mm-hmm.
do that. So I think about that as well, where I can, kind of collaborate and connect with other,
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits and organizations and missions out there
Mm.
that I can kind of highlight and feature and give to and let other people know about through my business. So
Yeah.
that's another thing that I'm still very passionate about.
Mm.
Um,
That's
that
great. That's great. No, it's that's so cool. And I think I also like to talk about like how you stay inspired, how you manage your time. And but I kind of wanted to see if you could speak to, because you've alluded to this already a little bit, to the moms out there who are passionate about a lot of things, who have a lot of dreams, and may
mhm.
feel like stuck in motherhood,
Yeah,
or who don't even know what their passions are or what they
yeah,
should even start on. Could you speak to the importance of timing, and managing your time, and having a strong yes for certain things, and
right,
knowing, obviously that's a process, right? Like
right,
there's a journey and all of that. But could you speak to the importance of like knowing what's for right now and what should I wait
right,
on,
right.
and not being stretched too thin, honestly.
Right. And I can say that because I think there are times where I definitely have stretched myself too thin, because
Mm-hmm.
we want to be able to pursue our passions
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time still keep our family our priority and do them both, but it's
Yeah.
really hard to do them both really well.
Yeah.
And so I think it's sometimes where we want to try to be the superwoman,
Yeah.
and I think we want to be at least for me, I can only
Mm-hmm.
speak from my own personal experience. I feel like, okay, I want to pursue all these things,
Yes,
but
totally.
sometimes if these things that I'm pursuing take from my
Yeah.
family, whether that be time, energy, or take more of me, where so there's less of me for my family,
Mm-hmm.
then that is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not right now. Not saying that I can't pursue those later, but there will be a time for that, and there's a
Yeah.
season for that. So I think that's really hard because you're like, I really want to do this thing, but it's
Mm.
really hard because I have all these babies,
Yeah.
and you're like, and you have all these commitments. So maybe
Yeah.
you have young children, you have a toddler, you're committed, maybe you're a single mom, and it's really hard to do all of those
Mm-hmm.
things because you have to make, for me, it's so important, that you have to make your children your priority because they do grow up eventually. It's so hard to
Yes.
see that in that moment because that the days are long and the years are short. And so those are times I
Yeah.
still tell myself that, even though my youngest is almost 7, I still remind
Yeah.
myself, okay, the days are long and the years are short, because before I know it, he's going to be 16 driving in a car and it won't have nothing to do with me. So I think
Yeah.
it's just trying to remind yourself, listen, patience, just give yourself patience to go, you know what, your children really need you right now, your family needs you right now. So maybe you want to pursue that degree, that passion, that mission
Yeah.
work, an organization, serving in some capacity,
Yeah.
that will take a lot more time and energy than you have right now. And that
Yeah.
thing, that passion will still be there. And I think
Yeah.
also sometimes where you can dabble, it's okay to dabble in a little bit of passions here
Yes.
and there. Give yourself that freedom. Go, you know what? I don't know what I want to do and I can't figure it out. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I still tell myself, gosh, I don't know what I want to do either. So
Yeah.
when people like,
Yeah.
they don't know, and they're like, really? Like, you have this great business and great company. And I go, yeah, right now. But,
Oh,
that might change in 5
yes.
years. I mean, I have a vision for what it could be like in 20 years from now, but
Yes.
I might be called to something else.
That's
And that's
so good.
totally okay to realize there are different callings on our life in different seasons and
Yes.
that they can change very quickly. And so just to have that fluidity and that
Yeah.
freedom to respond to that calling and that season on your life, and you realize whatever you're pursuing in that passion, it could be short term. But as long
That's
as it
so
gives
good.
you, it fills you and gives you a sense of creativity and purpose, I think
Yeah.
that's what we're all looking for is we want to be more than quote unquote just a mom.
Mm,
We want to be quote unquote more than just somebody's partner. We want to be
mm.
more than just that. And we are, our identity is so much more than that.
Yes.
But sometimes I forget it's so easy to lose your identity
Yeah.
in the season of having young babies,
Mm,
so realizing that that is just a season, it's a moment, it will pass.
yeah.
My youngest one, he's in first grade, so when he was going to preschool, and I was so excited about it because, like, oh, I'll get a couple hours a week to myself, like this will
Yeah.
be great, because I was getting really busy, and so that was the
Yes.
right time. So when timing is everything, and sometimes I believe things happen the way that they're supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So when he went to kindergarten, all day kindergarten, that was the right time because I could no longer be that full time stay at home mom and the
Mm-hmm.
full time business owner. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. It was an internal struggle all the time. Like, I should be taking care of my children. I should be 100% devoted. At the
Mm.
same time, I should really be working on my business and company because this is really growing and it really needs me. And they both need me to feed and nurture them. And
Mm.
so you have to still find time to feed and nurture yourself, or you're going to
Right,
keep
right.
much of yourself out all the time because there's
Yeah.
nothing left in you to pour out to other things or other
Yes.
people. So I think just realizing, taking that sometimes day by day, sometimes it's
Yeah.
month by month, and knowing that those seasons and callings are going to change. And it's
Mm.
okay if you don't know what it's going to be,
Mm.
in a
Yeah.
year or in a month or whatever it's going to be. So
Yeah.
I think that's totally okay.
That's so good. And I think about even for myself, there are things that I dream about and want to do. I mean, even when I was younger. And I think like knowing, because I think there is sometimes like this fear, like I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do when I have kids. Is to me that has like been revealed as like a total lie, because for one, there are things that get sparked in me and then I'm like, oh, everything's totally making sense because I'm a mom now. Like you'll just like, you just know, like once you get in that space, you're like, I feel like for me, more doors have been opened because of
Yeah.
that. But also I just thought of this funny analogy, like, um, when my mom and I go shopping together or whatever, we'll see a cute piece of clothing we want or something that we think is cool, and we'll set it down. We'll be like, well, if I keep thinking about it tomorrow, then I'll
Hmm.
know it's something that I want. And I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes that's even how, like, I think it's so amazing to be able to dream and to think about all of the different things that we want, and feel like hopeful about accomplishing. But I
Hmm.
think even that could even be like in the season of our kids growing up, could be
Hmm.
hey, let's wait on, like, maybe this is a waiting season. Maybe what if, if you're still thinking about it 10 years from now, maybe then, that is something that will be something that you should pursue or whatever.
Yeah.
That's just for me. Even I feel like I needed that little analogy, but yeah, that's so great. And I did want to talk about like taking care of your heart, and
Yeah.
what that looks like. Is that a priority to you? And if so, what are the ways that you proactively take care of your heart in the day to
Hmm.
day?
Yeah. I think ways, well, I have people that I work with. They are, employees of mine. I have people that work with me. So it's important for me to kind of check my heart, because I have some people that I can influence and affect.
Yeah.
So that's definitely important that I consider that, like, where is my heart at in this? And so ways that I kind of protect that is kind of, there's internal dialogue. I feel like I do a lot of personal development. And so that's through books, and that's through podcasts, and that's through
Yeah.
audios, and that's through reading. There's a lot of things that I do, being involved in my church. So there's a lot of things that I do on
Yeah.
an ongoing basis that build, but nothing that I do always consistently. I'm not a super consistent person.
Yeah.
It's not my strength. It's just, I'm not, my husband's a type A and I'm completely opposite. I'm totally unpredictable. And,
Hmm.
but I admire that the people who are predictable and plan, because I'm not that way. So I do a lot of different things. So, I might be taking care of my heart as, self care might be, I just need to get away from work and get away from my home and just not think about things because I get
Yeah.
overwhelmed. And I just want to go and sit at a coffee place and drink
Yes.
some really good espresso and read a book. And so maybe
Yeah.
that's taking care of my heart. It's a simple thing. It doesn't need much, but it really fills me. Or it might be
Mm.
driving in a car listening to a podcast. It
Yeah.
might be something like that, or listening to a lecture or something like that. That
Mm.
can really build me up and feed me and nourish me in many different ways.
That's good. That's really good. Love that. Um, okay, and I also like to talk about mom guilt. Have you felt
None
it?
of that ever.
I know.
Right, right. So yeah, well, I don't think. I know every mom has mom guilt. If they don't, they're just saying they're lying. It's not true.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think especially moms who are working. So because I
Uh-huh.
was a stay-at-home mom, that was a luxury and a privilege to be a stay-at-home mom for so long.
Yeah.
My mom was not a stay-at-home mom. She was a single mom of 5 kids.
Wow.
So now my mother-in-law, she was a stay-at-home mom. So the mom guilt, I think, was because I was a stay-at-home mom for so long. And as my business grew, and my business demanded more of me. Now, eventually, it was a good time because my children were starting to grow up a little bit, so they needed it.
Yeah.
They weren't super babies,
Yeah.
where they didn't need less of me. And then, of course, there was guilt when they were younger, when I was away at births and things like that. But I didn't go back to births when they were like 6 weeks old. It just wasn't right for me. But so I think
Yeah.
experiencing that mom guilt, where I'm always going, oh, I should be with my children. I should be working on my business. There's always that internal conflict. I need to be working on building this business because it makes a difference in people's lives. The people that I
Mm.
employ, the customers, the impact that it's having. I need to be working on that because it makes a difference. But I'm
Yeah.
always having to remind myself, okay, that it is important and it is a priority and that is my passion. And this is definitely a calling on my life. Running my
Mm.
company is a calling on my life, but also so is being a mom,
Yeah.
to my children, that is a calling on my life. And that is
Yeah.
the most important thing. So I always have to myself, okay, listen, I know I should be creating this form or, updating my website or, whatever, just finding
Yeah.
emails. And I try to fit those in random moments. And probably even times when I shouldn't be,
Yeah.
because I'm still working on boundaries,
Yeah.
and being, I mean, I think that's what it is, especially when, I work on an e-commerce, it's where that's
Yeah.
there, and there's always, and especially the customer base that I serve are
Mhm.
mothers who
Mhm.
usually just had first babies, their
Yeah.
first or their second baby, so they tend to have higher needs, and so I'm really aware
Yeah.
that I'm dealing with a customer base that's a very sensitive time in their life.
Wow.
um, so sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm guilty because I'm responding to this customer who is really upset that she is not making enough milk for her baby, and she's really sad. But at the same time, I really should be sitting down and being with my children while they play Legos. Like, really?
Mm.
No, they're okay. They're almost 7. They're 9 and
Yeah.
they're 12.
Yeah.
So they're not 6 months. They're not 2 years, and
Yeah.
they're not 3. They don't need me as much as they do, as much as they may want to say that they need me.
Right.
They think that they need me so much. I'm trying to teach that more of that
Yeah.
independence. And
Yeah.
I go, you know what? I shouldn't feel guilty. I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. That's a
Yeah.
really long time for someone who never thought they're going to be a mother.
Yeah. That's so
Right?
true.
It is. I never imagined doing that. So sometimes I will feel guilty about this thing and have a conflict, but I move on really quickly and I
That's
get over
great.
it. And I
Yeah.
forgive myself and go, you know what? And I tell myself, I'm
Yes.
an awesome mom. I
Yes.
I am available for them. Just because I'm not in their face 24/7 and reading to them and playing with them and grooming their hair and putting away their clothes, and I'm not this ridiculous idea vision of what we thought a mom should be,
Yeah.
whatever we have this notion of what mom should be like. I am still a great mom. I'm still available for them when
Mm.
they need me. I still take that time to, those moments I can talk to them and I listen to them and I pay
Mm.
attention to them when they need me. So if they want to
Yeah.
talk about Minecraft, I am not available and I don't feel good about that.
That's great. Well, I love the talking to yourself and reminding yourself of who you are, forgiving yourself when you do feel that. That's really good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Before we wrap it all up, I love also talking about legacy. And what do you think about when you hear that word? What legacy do you want to leave for your children?
I think about legacy often. It's really something that's very important to me. I think about the life we leave behind and the impact that it not just makes for our children, but for the people in our lives and everything.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
there's someone that's a family member of mine. I think they don't have a legacy. Like, and that saddens me and it breaks my
Mm.
heart because it's an immediate family member. And
Mm.
so that inspires me actually to
Mm.
think about what is the legacy that I want to leave for my children. because I don't want to be like that person that if something happened to me, no one would notice. I didn't make an impact. I wouldn't make a difference,
Mm.
And so I think about it, because that person is my mother. Like, and that makes me really sad as her child going, oh
Mm.
my gosh, I feel like she's not left a legacy for me. I feel like she's
Mm.
not taught me anything. And I feel like no one will notice. And that breaks my heart for her that we're not intentional about creating that legacy, about teaching those things. So, so for me, I think about the legacy of that, that I want my children to leave is that they know that they were fiercely loved, and
Mm.
they were loved to the best of my ability,
Yeah.
and that they knew that it's okay to, that you can pursue your passions and ideas, even as silly or random as they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes that leads you to the path that you're supposed to be on.
It's
I
so
think so.
good.
Pursuing your passions, even if it doesn't make sense, because
Yeah.
sometimes it does lead to a place of brilliance, and so
Yes.
through this business, I've been able to teach them a lot of things. I have grown a lot as a person
Wow.
in this business. I've never thought of myself as a leader, but I tell you, even 4 years in the military did not teach me anything about leadership at all.
Wow.
But running a business has taught me a lot about what does it mean to be a leader? What
Yeah.
is it to be a leader for the people in my life, for my children, for my friends, for my family, for my team members, and to be that leader that I never had.
Wow.
And so that's a legacy that I want to lead is about, okay, be the leader, be the
Yeah.
leader of life, be a positive force for good and a positive influence for people, and always trying to do that right thing, for somebody
Mm.
else. And I'm able to share experiences that I'm able to have with some of my, employees on a
Mm-hmm.
personal level about, how I'm able to pour into their lives. I have
Mm.
an employee who's just 10 years younger than me, and she says I am like her second mother to her.
Wow.
And I think, oh my
Wow.
gosh, that's, and she has worked for me less than a year, less than
Wow.
a year. And I think what an amazing opportunity that is, to be
Yeah.
able to be a part of someone's life like that and to be there for them. And so trying to teach my children, just modeling that, what I do
Yeah.
in and day out, and how I interact with, in my business with my customers. Because sometimes I really feel like being authentic and being who you are is definitely something that I want to people to feel like, oh, I've just met you, but I feel like I've known you forever. So that's what
Wow.
they say. Or,
Yeah.
I will have a conversation on the phone with a customer, or maybe it's a local client,
Yeah.
and I just walk into their hospital room, they've had a baby, and I'm there to help them. And they're
Oh.
like, oh my gosh, I just met you, but I feel like I've known you forever. And they
Oh.
feel so comfortable. So I think leaving a legacy of authenticity,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, is really important, is to be, intentional and to be authentic, to be
Mm.
who you are and just be intentional about it, about using your gifts and your abilities and, and how you steward those in your life.
That's so good. So good. Cindy, thank you so much for this. Before we kind of wrap up, I just wanted to ask you, like, where can people find you? We want to for sure get people exposed to your company, your business, so that way, if they have certain needs, especially new moms, they can find your good stuff. But yeah, where can we find you on social
Sure.
media?
So you can just find me at euphoricherbals.com. You can find me on Instagram at euphoricherbals.com. I currently manage all those accounts. So I'm pretty accessible until I eventually outsource some of those things.
Yeah.
They can send us an email through the website, but Euphoric Herbals or Euphoric Birth and Herbals, either one, you
Perfect.
can find all the different herbal products that we make for women for all their seasons of life. So that's into menstruation, into menopause,
Oh,
and well
wow.
beyond that. So we make about 30 different
That's
products. And
amazing.
yeah, and so something for everybody, for men
Cool.
and women. It doesn't matter what season of life you're
Perfect.
in or going into. We have products for that.
Oh, great. That's so good to know. Beautiful. We'll have all the links in the show notes. All right, cool. So I like to end with some fun questions. The first being, do you have a favorite product for yourself or for your kids that you feel like you could not live without at this moment?
Legos are always a
Yeah.
good one. Those always keep kids happy. So they still all
Mm.
play with Legos very much. So that's definitely
Yes.
that is my choice over iPads and stuff like that. So yeah, Lego.
Legos. Beautiful.
Yeah. For
Awesome.
myself, it's usually a book and coffee.
Ooh. Yeah, you really can't go wrong with that combo ever. So
No.
good. Okay, cool. And then do you guys have a favorite holiday family tradition that you share each year?
We don't yet. I think we're still kind of trying to find our own
Yeah.
groove and trying to find our own holiday traditions. We used to have some, but my father-in-law passed away a couple years ago.
Oh,
So
I'm
things have been
sorry.
kind of different.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure, okay, what is our family holiday tradition? And I think we need it's time to start our own family holiday traditions
Nice.
that we can create with our own children and that we want them to pass on to their children.
Mm,
So those are the things we're kind of thinking about that.
cool. Very cool. And then you've already given a ton of advice already, which I love. But is there like one thing you could say to a new mom, like a piece of advice you could give a new mom?
Um, I think telling yourself over and over the days are long and the years are short. So
Mm.
I think that's really important to remember. This morning, I was getting my boys ready for school, and I was trying to find pants for one of my boys to wear. And it's really hard because it seems like they fit in this pair of pants last week. They should fit in them this week, but they don't. And so my 9-year-old, who's going to be 10 in March, he's like, we're in a size 14. I'm like, wait a second. What?
Oh my gosh.
Who are you? And I look at him and I go, sometimes I don't even recognize him in just a glimpse. So I
Wow.
think, just remembering the days are long and the years are short. So trying to keep that in mind and in the thick of it all, because
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, whether you plan to be with your children forever to the end of the day until they leave the house, you plan to homeschool them until they get them off to preschool gladly and you're jumping at the door.
Mm.
Just remember that those days come and it's really short and
Mm.
it grows and it just changes really fast. So to keep
Mm.
that in mind, even when they're waking you up a million times at night or when
Yeah.
they want to going through a nursing strike, when they get a fever and the whole house is sick with the flu and going,
Yeah.
this too shall pass. You just have to remind yourself,
Yes.
too shall pass and that you will survive it. Just remember.
Yeah. That's so good. Oh, Cindy, thank you so much again for taking the time to do this and sharing your journey and your story. I cannot wait to share this. It's been so lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Oh, good. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode with Cindy. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Again, if you want to get in contact with her, see any of her products, you can check the show notes. Also, check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Mommy Space. All the details will be there as well. Guys, I'm just so thrilled and privileged to be a part of this podcast. Honestly, I keep getting so much amazing feedback. It really means a lot to me because I try really hard to find people that I think will be inspiring. But most moms are inspiring. Any mom I've met really has been inspiring, so it's not that hard. But there's a lot of work that goes into this, and one of the ways that you can kind of help me spread the word about this podcast and all the moms that are on the show is to leave us a rating and review on iTunes. I have all of the details on how to do that in the show notes. It's pretty simple, but this is just one way you can show your love and support for this community and honestly get some encouragement out to other moms in the world. So if you can do that, that would be amazing. Also, please feel free to reach out to me at Mommy Space on Instagram or Facebook. I love connecting with new people, would love to hear your story. If you have somebody that you want to hear from, or you yourself have a story you think that would benefit other mamas, I would love to hear from you and talk about maybe doing an interview with you. So please feel free to reach out. I don't bite. I just may take a little while to respond. But yeah, I will respond eventually. So, well, thank you again for tuning in and listening. Remember, you are enough, you are loved, and you're doing your very best. See you next week, Mama.